Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer, and welcome back to F1 Manager 2023. This is episode number 2. If you have not checked out that first episode, be sure to go back and find out what it is we're up to. But in short, we're going to take the Williams Return to Glory challenge once again and make it even tougher. This time, we're going to go for an all-female staff to add to the challenge of the game, as the base game itself only comes in one difficulty level. So we want to make it ultra hard. So far with that goal, we've made one big change, and that is Diana Romano brought in as our technical chief. Before we get into the race this weekend, we'll be changing out at least one more staff position as well. But also, one of the new features in the game is durability. Aerodynamic parts now have a durability lifespan, and as we've only done one race, everything has passed on both of the cars for the time being. In just a couple short weeks, we've already gotten the helipad from non-existent to a level 2. Getting it to a level 3 will add another % to the sponsor target's payout and only just hamper the cost ever so slightly, bring it up by 1,000. So we'll go ahead and make that next upgrade as well. Wonderful news, our second staff position is going to end up being an upgrade. We have a 71 overall Adam Kenyon as the new head of aerodynamics at Williams. $715,000 is his salary. Cost to break the contract will not be cheap, but again, it's kind of a one-time thing. For us though, Gladys Carter +5, regardless of how those points are distributed, she is better overall by 5. The combination of the two staff positions so far will actually be a net positive for us. I'm happy with this portion of it so far. Drivers, on the other hand, is going to be a tricky one when we do get around to making that change, and we are going to absolutely 100% without a doubt add to the challenge we are a part of. Knowing that we're already paying a similar salary to another member, I'm starting right off the bat with a $700,000 offer. I would imagine we're going to end up having to pay more, and sure enough, not happy with salary, but everything else is great. We'll get that bumped up, and hopefully soon enough we'll get Gladys signed. We're at $1 million, not yet enough. We'll keep on pushing. We should hopefully be able to get her signed soon. Well, it took $2 million to get the deal over the line. Definitely an increased salary, but it also is increased performance that we're going to get back. And we have now met the requirements at 2 staff positions. We have 3 more to fill. I might look at filling a second one before we head into the race. The ratings, drag reduction 91, which means keeping speed with the car will be good. Airflow also in the 80s, so I like what that's going to do for handling dirty air. Where it's not helpful is just straight up downforce, where she's between a 67 and a 71, and in cooling, which is a 60. And I think the cooling is going to matter more in the game this year than it did last year, I would think. Looking at race engineers, we've got a problem on our hands that is going to take some time to resolve. And here is the issue. We have our F1, our F2, and our F3 race engineers. Unfortunately, it has 0 diversity whatsoever, as the entire field at all 3 levels are men. And there is not a single extra race engineer in the pool as of right now. So it looks like we're going to have to wait at least 1 year, and as we get new engineers coming into the pool at the end of this year, we could expect at least one of those to come in as female, knowing how this game works on the creation of staff within the pool. As long as they haven't tweaked the formula on that, we should see at least one coming in at the end of the year. So we will replace them in time. And speaking of replacing them, it's not like we are getting some sort of extra bonus out of them at the moment. As the top end of the field, yeah, we're not even in it. Next page, yeah, still not in it. Third page, okay, we're finally getting somewhere. Irwin comes in the middle of the 3rd page. Jago is near the top end of the 4th page of available engineers, and a lot of the F2 engineers come in above that. Even though the season just started, we've already entered our second period for tunnel for testing time. I'm going to commit about a third of it, or just a little over a third of it right now. I'm not going to do nothing, but I am intentionally going to do less than what we could do. And that is because I don't want to make the car overly competitive yet. Oh, and see, there you go. Anyway, we only have 10 available engineers. We already have 6 committed to the underfloor project. We'll put 4 on this one. It's going to take a little over a month to complete. There's another reason to not necessarily come back and forth. And realistically, I should probably jump back over and put all of the time into this upgrade. We might as well just do the one, right? Center upgraded to level 4, and the final upgrade, level 5, is just shy of 600,000, which we have just over 10 million. So we'll go ahead and take that extra 5k per week in terms of weekly income. Helipad level 3 done, straight into level 4. These are those early upgrades that are going to get us a little boost to cash and have some long-term help for us and cost very little in the grand scheme of things. This upgrade is going to cost us a bit more, but the team hub just went from level 1 to level 2. And this is where I get that weekly development in our staff. For the time being, of course, the 2 staff member changes we made are okay, and we don't have race engineer upgrades to make anytime soon. But our permanent staff, or at least I expect them to be our permanent staff for 2 positions, are already filled. And they do have a long ways to go. They are still low quality for the level. Just Williams in general has low quality staff across the board, at least for the most part. I do have that one more staff position that I'll look to fill before the next race in the short term, so that we are at least checking off doing everything that can be done for the current season. And then we're going to ultimately try to speed things up through this first year. A lot of quicker races, kind of straight to the event, and expecting to be towards the back end of the grid, because we want to build the team up from something. We've got to get to that something first. In the meantime, we're really just filling the void, filling the gap until we can fill those particular spots.
We're here in Jeddah, where the tension is boiling as we head into the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. The circuit at Jeddah, spread along streets that run next to the Red Sea, is one of Formula One's highest speed tracks. It's a test of skill from start to finish, with cars just millimeters from the walls. Jeddah Corniche circuit is hot and high powered, demanding speed for the straights and a high grip level through corners that are tight to the barriers. Starting tyre choices will be crucial here, with teams ever mindful of opportunities that a safety car could give. There's new blood competing for Aston Martin this weekend. Will they manage to be a game changer? The drivers are lined up on the grid here at the Jeddah Corniche circuit, preparing for 50 flat-out laps under the lights. Many people here and at home are wondering what the Haas driver can do.
9th is a fairly good grid position. If they make the right calls, they could well score some points.
Here we go. It's time to go racing. It's almost time for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
So here's the idea as we start from P11 and P16 in this one. For season number 1, my goal is to reach the end of the season as soon as possible, because we don't have the right drivers, we don't have the right crew chiefs. We have a long ways to go to get things the way we need them to be. While I will make some upgrades to the car, as mentioned before, it's my intention to quickly settle in and get to those changes that we need to have to set this challenge up properly. So in order to set this challenge up properly, I need time to go by. Today, for this episode, we're going to have 2 races. Now that you're getting a setup of what is to come and some of the changes that I'm making, especially with minimal upgrades coming to the car this year to potentially set us back a little bit further. We don't have to start from way behind everybody else, but we don't want to be starting right off the bat with a much faster car. So I am intentionally sabotaging this season a bit. And as a result, part of that sabotage is going to come with doing things rather quickly. So 2 races in this episode, potentially 3 races per episode for the remainder of this first season, maybe even more. Maybe we'll just do some limited highlights of what happens race by race by race. But I am going to, as fast as possible, get through this first season to start setting us up. Even with just one driver in place, we could start the challenge more or less in earnest at that point. One crew chief in place. We don't have to have every single position where we need it to be just yet to start. But at that point, you kind of focus. Oh, I left us on. Okay. We'll slowly top up. And now seems to be a good time to back off. So I pushed early on because last race I didn't push. Yeah, I settled in very quickly last race, and it made life a bit difficult on us as the other teams pushed much longer than us. We pushed with Sargent, and Sargent still managed to go from 16th down to 18th off the start. But Albin has gained a position. He's ahead of Hulkenberg in between, splitting the 2 Haas cars. We are one of the only teams that really is split. The front 4 teams are in 1-2 fashion, with the Ferraris ahead. I think somebody has not been watching as closely this season as they could or should, or paying attention to just how competitive one car is compared to all the rest. One driver may not be performing up to standard, but you can see how the moment we've backed off here with Albin, how much pressure he is suddenly under. He's already 2.4 seconds behind Magnussen, and Hulkenberg gets right on by. But with the benefit of DRS, can we now keep pace? I've got Albin on the mediums. It's a 1-stopper, so medium to hard. Sargent going reverse could be part of the reason why he's gone backwards here at the start. He is started on the hard compound. He will be switching to the medium later on in this race. Hopefully he can keep pace. In fact, he's the only driver who has opted to go onto the hards for the initial stint. He's already nearly a pit stop behind, though. That's a little worrying, but it's not like Albin's that far in front of Sargent. Just 7 seconds, less than 7 seconds separating them. And we have a big crash in this one. Verstappen and Perez all coming together. Not a big crash. They said big crash. That's not a big crash. But very accurate team radio there. So Perez heading down pit road. He is coming back out after a quick stop. And here is Verstappen just now making his way to pit road, serving his penalty to get started. And with 2 positions gained, Albin is up to P10. Sargent came out behind Perez. Or Perez came out ahead of Sargent anyway, so Sargent only gains 1 position. But the Red Bulls very much have some work to do in this race. In a rocket ship, entirely possible for them to still get up onto the podium, but they do seem to be nerfed in the game quite a bit from what they have in real life. And we have another crash. We have another crash just moments later. De Vries has, I think, picked up the penalty on this one, up alongside the Alfa Romeo. And yes, the 2 come together, and we saw a lot of debris on that one. There's Perez already sneaking on by. For now, both cars continue on as is, but with 4 cars taking damage already early in this race, a couple taking penalties. Albin, his situation has gotten much better, though, we only sit P11, even as is. The 1 Haas, 2 Alpines have all made their way past Albin, though Albin has slowly been topping up the battery, and we've been driving neutral for quite a while here, so it is possible that we are setting ourselves up for a better run later on. 3rd incident of this race already. This one is Stroll in the Aston Martin, going too deep on the final hairpin, straight into the wall, destroying his front wing, and the virtual safety car is out. Albin is the 5th car to head down pit lane here, as he is taking advantage of the virtual safety car to lose a bit less time. Stroll is out of the race. This is 2 laps earlier than expected, but I think it is well worth it. That was a pretty good time, a 2.512. Much better than last race weekend, and much higher. Comes back out in 13th, by the way, and so many of the other cars have not pit. Perez has pit twice. Russell, Hamilton, Sainz, and Leclerc have pit, but we're still looking at a wide number of cars just ahead of us that will all need to pit. 3 of them there, also just behind us and carrying penalties. Sargent, with the hard to medium, will not be able to take advantage of it. Good timing on that VSC coming to an end as Albon comes right around that hairpin where Stroll crashed, and you get to your longest straight here at Jeddah. Now, of course, most of the lap is flat out here at Jeddah, but at least we get it right as we're entering the longest straight. I think that's going to benefit him just a little bit coming out of there as we sit in P13 with brand new hard tires, and we are the only 2 cars on the entire circuit on the hards. Will this strategy pay off for us? Well, we're halfway through right now. Verstappen is caught and overtaken Albon. But of course, Verstappen has not pit again as of yet after the initial one that he had, and he's on soft compound in a much faster car. So Albon P14, Sargent P17, Sargent pretty soon will be making his one and only stop for the day. A lot of cars still out there. Are they going to try to go medium soft? And now it's Hulkenberg's turn. Same problem, same location, into the hairpin, and probably out of the race, which again is saving us so much trouble with others having issues. And with the VSC out, Sargent is in his window, so we are going to go ahead and pit Sargent under the virtual safety car. Sargent hits up pit road. De Vries, while comfortably ahead, does have a 5-second penalty, so will he get held up long enough to get us an opportunity? They're still waiting to work on his car, but it looks like they just started to work just ahead of us, so we're probably going to sit and wait, or we come out just ahead of him. Nice. He's got damage. So that added to his pit stop time. That was only 12th fastest. However, and Albon's time would have been bumped down quite a bit. It is a definite improvement from where we were a few weeks ago, as we have been working on improving the time, and both cars do well with that, and both cars have taken advantage of pitting under VSCs during this race. And as it's the one and only stop we're going to have for the day, pending that everything goes well the rest of the way, that has set us up nicely to lose a minimal amount of time here. And hopefully we can take advantage of that. Currently P11 and P15, and let's check in on the other cars on what's left to do with 20 laps to go, because there are still cars out there that are opting for 2 stoppers. Everybody has pit, but you can see Verstappen, he's going to be pitting again soon, knocking him back down the grid once again. A lot of cars on soft compounds that look like they're going to be trying to go the race distance. Not necessarily an easy thing to do for that many laps, which means late in the race, the final laps, we could find ourselves pushing pretty hard. Albon, in the near future, will have himself right back up into the points. It's a chance. It's a chance to score some points today. Sargent following De Vries. De Vries got back around us pretty early on, but he's on the soft compound, and he's already gone to that point where his advantage is no longer with him. We're on the mediums that are going to last much better. We're putting pressure on him. We do get up the inside, and we are going to manage to get around and up into P15. 0.6 of a second ahead of De Vries. We may be able to stretch and get him out of DRS range. Over a second. There you go. It looks like we have managed to escape DRS. Well, maybe not quite, because he just went through a DRS zone and gained a bit on us and got back within that 1 second. Okay, back to standard. Looks like we have managed to do that. Meanwhile, with Albin, fuel usage is going by a little bit faster. We're at 2.5 now on the spare fuel with 13 laps to go. Holding off Bottas, who is 2 seconds behind, is now the big key. Norris and Bottas are battling one another, so they are both close behind. And Mr. Rocket Ship himself, Verstappen, is coming after us as well in a significantly faster car. So our chances of holding everybody off seems a little slim at this point. But again, final laps, we could and should see a number of cars dropping off competitively, and that could be the opportunity we need to hang on to a point today. We are 18 seconds behind Gasly, so unless something happens to any of the drivers in front of us, there is absolutely no reason to believe that we have any chance of going higher up the grid than where we are now, but we could potentially, maybe. Seems unlikely at this point, but we might be able to hang on to P10. Just a few laps later, and Bottas and Norris are now within DRS range. Verstappen also getting closer, just a few seconds behind those guys. We're going to have a difficult time now. Sargent, likewise, is pulled away from De Vries slightly. He's just over a second beyond him, but otherwise he's way behind anybody in front of him. So both of our drivers facing challenges from behind and not looking like they're going to be making much progress. Bottas gets up beside us there, and they continue to battle. But we push and get back ahead for the time being. And Verstappen has joined that battle. The likelihood of holding off these three cars for 10 laps seems not good. Not good, especially with Verstappen as one of those. And now Bottas. And he gets up beside us. He carried that momentum right on in through. Took him a couple extra corners, but basically has a double pass there. Now, if we can get out of range of Bottas, we might have a chance to be able to follow. We're going to deploy here. Can we keep up with Verstappen? Can we get away from Bottas and at least keep P11 and maybe, just maybe, see something happen to one of those drivers in front of us to get back up into the points? For now, 2 seconds away from Bottas and just out of DRS range when it comes to Verstappen. Trying to use him to give us a bit of a tow. Lap 42 of 50. Not much left in this race. Albin now into no man's land, well behind Verstappen, who's pulling away quickly, and just over 2 seconds ahead of Norris, who got around Bottas with the help of DRS. Close call for scoring points today, but it looks like we are going to go home pointsless once again with a season best 11th placed finish. That is still good when it comes to tiebreakers of teams that have not scored points. For those not that familiar with F1, points are only accumulated for the top 10 finishers, but from 11th on down, if a team has not scored any points on the season, the tiebreaker amongst teams with 0 points is highest finish. An 11th for Albin is definitely good for that highest finish tiebreaker. It's the highest you can be without scoring points. Alonso has claimed that victory that has eluded him in real life. Leclerc and Sainz second and third, so Aston Martin being that next best makes sense. He'd have plenty of podiums this season. It's just beating the Red Bulls that has been otherworldly difficult, except for today when they decide to take each other out. Sargent ends up first car a lap down in 15th. 2 cars not finishing the race, and Albin looks poised to cross the line here shortly in P11. Verstappen will get a bonus point for fastest lap, giving him just 2 on the day. And Albin finishes that P11 finish. confirmation of that tiebreaker and how it works. We have 4 teams with no points, and yet we just moved up 2 spots in the rankings from 9th to 7th. Teams will score points. McLaren, Alfa Romeo, AlphaTauri, Haas has 3 points already. So the battle at the back end, realistically in real life, you got 5 teams that are much stronger than everybody else. McLaren, as the season goes on, gets much stronger. They have the infrastructure, they have the staff, they should have the car as this season goes on to move up the grid rather rapidly. We'll see if that happens here in game as well. But in the meantime, we are very much going to be battling with Haas, Alfa Romeo, and AlphaTauri for not being last. Season goal was 8th. The in real life also sponsored DHL fastest pit stop competition. I'm loving that this is an added feature in the game this year because it is a neat competition, except for the fact that Red Bull dominates this one as well for the most part. 0.2 of a second faster than we were a week ago for Albon gets into the top 10. We do miss on the top 10 when it comes to Sargent this time, but we score points for the first time in this competition and move up to 8th in that one as well. Let's see how Sargent just missed out, 2.542 on his, within right about 1/10 of a second compared to everybody else. Talk about consistency. Albon, 11th in practice, 11th in qualifying, 11th in the race. Sargent, fairly similar. 2 DNFs bumped us up. Otherwise, we would have been within 1 position across the board throughout. Following that second race, our first upgrade is ready to go onto the car. It is the underfloor upgrade that we had. It's not a significant upgrade by any stretch. It doesn't actually move us up the grid at all. And that's one area where our bonuses, our staff, our facilities don't provide much. And so the upgrades we do have are actually pretty minor in their impact right now. New feature this year that most of you would have heard of by now is you have fully simulated F2 and F3 championships, which is a great way to keep track of who the best performing drivers are. You can see Novalak takes a win ahead of our double drivers champion and key component of our triple constructors champion in the last series, Théo Pourchaire. So Pourchaire for ART is pretty dang good in real life too. He's on the verge of an F1 seat. As the existing F2 and F3 drivers occupy almost the entire pool, along with the F1 drivers that we have 4 available drivers right now, there's just a few more in this first iteration, this first season at the starting point. That pool gets larger. There's plenty of free agents as you go into future seasons, but not in the short term. In the short term, there is 1 additional female beyond Florsch who we have. So we've scouted her, and this is how she looks right now. She is aggressive. She does have high potential. She's 20 years of age, but as a free agent, we're still looking at minimum 2 years in an F3 or better seat before she's even eligible for us to hire her. Her cornering, her pace is not good. She is smooth, so at least she's good on tires. She's learned that decently well. She can defend, but she will need work in every other area. Florsch is definitely a better option for us and will be eligible, should anyway be eligible. She has 2 split seasons for F3, but it is 2 seasons once she gets through this particular one. So at the end of the year, we will be able to make a deal to get her signed immediately and replace, in theory, Logan Sargent. Go straight to it and put her into a seat, as we're not looking to bring her on as a reserve driver. That kind of defeats the purpose of the playthrough. We will eventually have all 3 seats filled by female drivers, but for the time being, we need to get her into one of our race seats as soon as possible, meaning before the first race of next season. Pace is poor. She's going to struggle. She is really going to struggle in F1 initially, and that's where we're going to need some work. Her consistency, the accuracy, control, and smoothness are almost at a tolerable level. They're not that far below where Logan Sargent is. She'll make mistakes. We're going to have to suck it up and accept that, as I think we're going to have to work on her race pace first and foremost. The adaptability is actually pretty decent as far as things go. She's not good at overtaking, but if she's driving in 20th because of the combination of a slow car and her slow pace individually, it's not going to matter that she can't overtake for quite a while until we can bring her up to pace. So it's pretty obvious where we need to go, what we need to work on. But at 22 years of age, with high potential and high aggression, when the time comes, she'll be able to do what's necessary. It's going to take a while before we can bring this up. Let's hope she makes some improvement over the course of this season. Not as good as our current sporting director, but on the balance, really not too bad overall. 77 for Anna Bernard, who will take over as our sporting director if we can come to terms with her. So we have a deal in place. Unfortunately, though, we only got a 2-year deal, as she's considering retirement already. We had to push up the salary just to get her to sign a 2-year deal, but otherwise, for $500K, it's not that bad. And like I said, we have almost an even balance wash on this one. So out of 8 total positions at our disposal, only 3 were we able to, in the short term, replace. But we've started the process. I would expect we can fill 2 more this first off season, but in the meantime, now our objective is to speed through this season. Also, now's a great time to throw in the algorithm. Is really important, especially with a small channel, and as this game has released, they gave keys out and special advanced copies to a few bigger channels. I do get that from time to time, but I have not gotten that for this game. I had to go out and buy the game just as the rest of you in order to get it, and I had to get that deluxe edition to get it in advance. So as a smaller channel, the algorithm is my only ally to help compete with those larger channels. Many of them are going to do a few races and set the game aside. Many of them will do a season, maybe 2, and set the game aside. There's very few channels that go to the depths that I'm going to be going to, that are going to cover as many seasons as I'm going to cover within this game. And to my knowledge, I'm the first one that's setting up an extra challenge on top of the game itself, as many are going to take on teams that are already higher up the grid to begin with. If you don't mind, take a moment, drop below, click that like button, leave a comment to help with that algorithm, as it will be immensely helpful. It really comes down to the first 3 episodes of a series to make or break whether the algorithm will push it out there for months for anyone looking into F1 Manager or F1 content in general to kind of pick up on it.
It's wonderful to be back down under for the Australian Grand Prix. There may be several street circuits on the F1 calendar, but this unique lakeside layout is like none other. High-speed sections snake through the heart of Albert Park, just a few hundred meters from St Kilda's beach. Albert Park is a deceptively easy track to learn, but it's just as easy to make a mistake around its walled sections and gravel traps. The street circuit is high downforce and just as heavy on brakes as it is on tyres.
It's Ferrari who are currently ahead in the constructors' standings.
The fans here in Melbourne are all set, as are the drivers, heading into 58 laps around Albert Park. And the cameras now shift to Sergio Perez, concentrating on the race ahead.
5th place is a good starting point for them. Where can they go from here?
But remember, anything can happen in Formula One. Get ready for the Australian Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
Starting from P11 and P12 is nearly an ideal scenario, because when you get all the way to Q3, you're burning a couple extra sets of tires, and wow, we have 3 wide here between the 2 Alpines sandwiched there, and Albon comes out gaining a position now in P10. Sargent, though, has not had a great start. He has dropped a position down to P13. But up alongside Hulkenberg is challenging to try to get back into the position from which he started. Uh-oh, we have a problem, Sargent. Oh, Sargent and Hulkenberg. Sargent had just completed an overtake. It looks like Hulkenberg might have taken him out in the meantime, and this could be... It is out of the race. It is out of the race for Logan Sargent. So we have our first crash of the year. Sargent was on the outside, completed the overtake. I think, yes, Hulkenberg. It was Hulkenberg who took Sargent out. Oh, Sargent picks up a 5-second penalty, so they blamed Sargent for the causing of the collision. Interesting, as it was pretty clear on the replay that it had gone the other way around, but okay.
Yep, sure.
We are racing once again with Albin currently in P10. We're in another one-stopper scenario, also thanks to the virtual safety car and 2 cars just being in the line and then suddenly not being in the line. We have a gap between Ocon and Magnussen, as Magnussen was previously the car who was in 14th, and the 2 guys out of the race were 12 and 13. So that left a little bit of a gap, but you could see Albin right now is losing some ground compared to Gasly. Yes, he is 3.4 seconds behind, so we're kind of backing ourselves up to that group behind us. Temperature's okay. I think we could stay on these tires a little bit longer, which will allow us to conserve go into the hards a little bit later and be able to push a little bit harder when it comes time to the hards. Meantime, though, Albin has finally been overtaken by Ocon. I'd like to stay up close behind him. Can we manage to do that and not lose ground on another driver? Yes, okay. We burned a little bit of that fuel, but it's helping us keep up with Ocon, and nope, didn't last. We just don't have his pace. The Alpine is a definite faster car than what we have. Front 8 pulling away. 2 Alpines now pulling away from us, just not at the same rate. And we are holding off that group behind, so Albin, here we are once again sitting in P11. Can he hold on to this long term? Will things change as the race goes on? You assume it will. So pit window is open. Chance of the undercut certainly exists, but I like being faster at the end of the race than running into an option, a problem here. So we are going to continue on for a little bit here. We are right where we need to be at the right time. So in terms of tire wear, we've actually been neutral despite the virtual safety car helping us out through that little stretch. But let's go ahead and go aggressive and put a couple more laps in before we pit. See if we can't have a quick couple of laps here. First half a lap is complete. No one has pit yet. Alonso, Sainz both peel off and pit. They come back out ahead of us. Sonoda pits. And that is our second push lap, so it is time. Hamilton and Albin both heading down the pit road. Let's see what we can do with this one. One and only pit stop of the day. Team should get this right. 2.529, similar to what we did in that last race. Not bad. Not bad. Current 5th. Quite a few cars have pit already, too. We come back out in P13. Not too far down the grid. Still 3 cars behind us that haven't even pit yet. And with that VSC, the field was pretty bunched not that many laps ago. So Albin is turning in a pretty good pace at the time being. We need to get up to temperature, so we will push a little bit longer. We will try to use the undercut a little bit as well. So this might be a good time to go on deploy.
Use the overtake.
I don't want to overheat the tires, so when we get towards that range where we draw near to it, we'll back off. But for the time being, I think this is a great opportunity, especially as we waited a couple extra laps, as it were. Okay, we are into that happy neutral. Oh, come on, we're getting overtaken. Was that about getting up to temperature? It's DeVries with the overtake, but we're going to have DRS here, and we'll get back ahead of him. That's good. Ocon with an issue on his pit stop. Could be an opportunity for us. That undercut may work, but there is Ocon just ahead of us. So Ocon's problem only slowed him down. We've caught back up to him. And we are going to go up the outside here. It's hard to tell from the visor cam, but we are still side by side. He is probably getting closer to being up to temperature as he's a lap in now. But we get the advantage of DRS, and we pull ahead. Albin to P12 ahead of Ocon. So the undercut has succeeded. I said top up. Apparently we had already pushed it to the brink. That's going to make us a sitting duck here on the straight without any battery to use. So we switched to topping up apparently a bit too late, and our lead over Ocon has been short-lived.
Keep
Right,
pushing.
let's settle down.
Okay, back off. Okay.
Ooh, he's on another set of mediums. Didn't he start on the mediums, or did he start on the softs? After just a handful of laps, Ocon has driven away from us by nearly 10 seconds. Gasly, his teammate, finally pits and comes out just ahead of us. The back of the grid, we do have a crash once again between AlphaTauri and Alfa Romeo. So we're back in the position we were in prior. We have a pretty healthy advantage over Magnussen, 13 seconds ahead. 2.5 second advantage over Magnussen. How many cars will end up pitting twice? It's looking like not too many, if any. We'll have better pace in the final laps. 10 laps remain. Magnussen gets around. Can we get back beyond him before the end of this race? Can we stay in DRS range? No, he very quickly drives out of DRS range. Apparently the medium to hard strategy is not the right call for this race. Softs and mediums would have done it. Lap 55, we're going to push pretty hard, see if we can't close up on Magnussen, get within DRS range at least, and then try to have some sort of go, as his softs are now quite used, but we don't have a pace advantage as we're on fairly used hards. But as we have now closed to within 1 second with 3 laps to go, we do have a chance here. Let's go back to neutral. And neutral. Looks like we've got the overtake. The overtake is on. And it's complete. We have gotten back around Magnussen, but 18 seconds behind the front cars. Here we are once again battling for P11. Last lap. Perez just crossed the line. He leads this race by 7 seconds. Verstappen is third. Alonso fourth, Sainz fifth. And they are just behind us. We are just missing out on getting blue flagged. Perez is definitely getting closer, but not close enough for blue flags to be a factor, as we have just a couple corners to go. And then we will begin our final lap of this race, as he's just about to come around and finish the race and take victory. There it is, Perez, fastest lap and claims victory. We've got one more lap to go to hold off. We will now finish no worse than 12th. We are now 1.3 seconds ahead of Magnussen, unless somebody crashes. Stroll, Hamilton, Ocon, Gasly, the last 4 to finish their laps, and they are all well ahead of us, just a few corners to go. So it looks like back-to-back P11s for Albin. Sargent this time will DNF. Seconds ahead, we've got it in the bag. That is going to do it for this episode, though. Can't even see him, hardly see him behind us anymore. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.